think I'm just bored of feeling as though, as a dark-skinned woman, I should feel represented by light-skinned women. Earlier this year, I was beat up in an airport in Switzerland. How many light-skinned women can say, of my peers in the same space, can say that shit happens to them on a regular?
Aw, shit. Get your tea and your popcorn because we have hit yet another psychological jackpot. Welcome to another episode of Comment, Foolery, Exposed. This woman talks about how she was beat up in a Switzerland airport, and she implies that doesn't happen to light-skinned women on a regular. Ma'am, it doesn't happen to dark-skinned women on a regular as well. How many dark-skinned women do you guys know of in real life who got beat up in a Switzerland airport? And also, she never goes into details about what happened at the airport.
I have experienced physical abuse at the hands of white people multiple times throughout my life. I am socialized differently. We are socialized differently as dark-skinned women.
Pause. I just wanted to highlight the fact that a dark-skinned black woman is agreeing with my talking point, which is that unambiguous women are socialized differently than women who have privilege in the black community. But when we call that out, we're being colorist. When we say that, hey, we're socialized differently because we don't have the same traumas of the isms, then suddenly people are saying, oh, well, you think you're better and that's not even true, and the white man still sees you as just the same, and you're getting one dropped, and you got a woman here talking about getting her ass beat in a Swiss airport, which I don't believe, by the way. I believe that she's exaggerating, just like the woman who talked about Club Mona. She falsely accused Club Mona of being colorist when in reality it was just a random man standing on the street outside of Club Mona who was not affiliated with them at all.
And so we deserve to be shown and to exist in our own right, not through the lens of women who are lighter skinned than us or who are mixed, who have white privilege.
Let's pause it again. Now she's also admitting that she views blackness on a spectrum, so she is acknowledging that different skin tones of blackness, women who are lighter than her, she perceives them differently. So I actually have a new theory. I believe that a lot of people in the black community, they do not actually view light-skinned black people as black. Because I'm noticing this pattern where you got dark-skinned black women saying, oh, well, she's a light-skinned black woman, so she's different. So it's almost as if they view themselves based on their skin tone identity first, and then their blackness actually comes second to that. Because I've seen plenty of cases where you got dark-skinned black women who feel more relatable to dark-skinned Indian women versus a light-skinned black woman, and we're going to see that later. Also, she acknowledges that she believes that mixed people have a form of white privilege. So, for example, let's say you're half white, kind of like this half white privilege, or you're more easily able to flow in and out of black communities and white communities because you already have proximity. But I thought that the white man views mixed people in the exact same way that they view dark-skinned Nigerians. So which one is it?
I don't share that. I don't possess that. Do I look like I possess that? No. So I think we should be allowed to unapologetically say it as it is. And I want to work in a space and in an environment and in an industry where I should be able to authentically show up as myself the same way that other people have been afforded that privilege.
She just exposed her inferiority complex. She said that she should be able to show up authentically as herself. Why can't you show up authentically as yourself everywhere else? I thought that unambiguous women were so confident and their melanin is popping and they're the blueprint and everybody came from black people and Filipinos are black and natives are black and Jesus is black and the Hebrews are black. So what does she mean when she says she can't show up authentically like how other people do? Which one is it? Do multicultural people have a privilege of being more quote-unquote authentic or not? What's inauthentic about her? I thought that unambiguous black women are the realest women there are, right? The most authentic women on the earth, right? So why is she even talking about feeling like she can't be her authentic self?
And highlight these things. In the UK scene, even when it comes to music, how many dark-skinned women are there? Rachel Chinariri and Kat Burns, bro. Like, if we went to list all the black women, and I'm not invalidating their blackness, but if we were to list all the black women who come under that, how many of them are light-skinned? Let's do better. Let's do better.
Okay, let's get into the comment foolery. This person says, love Olivia Dean. but it's obvious that white women relate to her more than darker skinned women do. Her fan base alone shows that. So Olivia Dean, I was today years old when I heard of Olivia Dean, and now I'm downloading her entire album on my phone. So she is a mixed race singer, and you got people randomly bringing mixed race women into their conversation. Do you see what I mean when I say that women with inferiority complexes, they're constantly thinking, what do biracial women have? What do light-skinned women have? What do white people think? What do they think of me? So Olivia Dean, the TikTok had nothing to do with this singer at all, but she randomly gets pulled up in the comments. And then somebody says she is mixed, not light-skinned. The experience and upbringing is different. So now they're arguing about what's not considered light-skinned. So there are some people who say that if you have a multiracial background, you don't count as light-skinned because you have to have 2 unambiguous black parents in order to be light-skinned. So they got all these rules and regulations on what makes a person light-skinned, but I don't see them doing the same thing with being dark-skinned. This person says she's still mixed and not a good example for dark-skinned woman representation. Somebody said she is light-skinned. Another person says light-skinned black people are fully black people that happen to be light. We need to stop acting like mixed and light-skinned are the same. So they believe that 2 things can't be true at the same time. If you're mixed, you don't get to have the title of also being light-skinned, okay? You can only have 1 privilege at a time. You can only have 1 title, okay? So Doja Cat is not light-skinned. Zendaya is not light-skinned. If you have some sort of mixed background, you don't count because that's just too many different titles. So do you see how they're gatekeeping the term light skin like it's a trophy to be handed out? No, we want to keep the light skins as black people. Black people should be the representation of light skins, not mixed people. Isn't that interesting? They're fighting over who gets to represent the light skin community. I don't see them doing the same thing with dark skin. This person says, I don't feel represented by Manon from Cat's Eye. This person says, at all. Beautiful gowns, though. They're talking about that clip where she's like, beautiful gowns, trying to change the subject, basically saying they don't have anything to offer. So if you don't feel represented by Manon from Cat's Eye, my question is, why don't you create your own spaces where you can represent yourselves? Like, why do you have to announce to random people, oh, I don't feel represented by them? Good. I don't see Manon begging to be the representative for unambiguous dark-skinned black women in TikTok comment sections. She's too busy being a pop star. She's in the K-pop industry. That is not a black-dominated industry. And it's also a bad social climbing tactic because they expect non-black industries to represent them. This person says, I think there actually is a lot of great dark-skin representation, especially in the UK, but it gets overshadowed. So here we go once again. Oh, the light-skinned women are overshadowing every single black dark-skinned woman in the world. This person says, the whole Sophia Wiley situation reminds me of this. She is barely black, yet so many projected onto her while there were other black girls on Disney. This person says, no, literally, she's 1/4 African American, but is used as black representation, which is crazy. 1/4 is pushing it. Like, to me, it's ethnic representation, but not racial. She is multiracial and a woman of color, but I don't know why she's able to represent the black community, let alone black women. So notice how they talk so much about representation, but they never describe what it is. Being cast in a movie, is that their view of representation? What about doctors? What about lawyers? What about politicians? What about all the other fields in this world? Why is it that they are so obsessed with representation, but the main representation they focus on the most is being on Disney Channel? Being a princess, being a love interest in a movie. Do you see how that's another bad social climbing tactic? What they really need is dark-skinned black women representing as casting directors and producers and creating their own channels, and then they're going to get the shine that they want. So they're not getting the shine they want because there are not enough people representing them behind the scenes. That's why they're not getting cast to be on the camera. There are more MLS people who are doing productions and stuff in Hollywood versus unambiguous people. And then a lot of them don't even get along with their men. They talk about their men on their YouTube channels. They hate their men. So then, of course, their men aren't going to represent them. If a dark-skinned black man has a history of a lot of dark-skinned black women hating him, then yeah, he's not going to represent those women if he ever becomes a casting director. But this person says, I hope people wake up after her coming on here crying and snotting over that Klansman's untimely demise. This person says, OMG, she did that? That's crazy. I agree with you for real. Like, non black people with a mixed parent are not going to go through what black or even most half black mixed people go through. So, anti black racism doesn't tend to apply to them, and they don't take things like what Charlie Kirk has said seriously, since it doesn't affect them. I don't know why people clamor to be represented by ambiguous people. It's tiring. So I just want to point out that she is acknowledging that mixed race people have a different experience and not as many traumas as a monoracial, monocultural, dark-skinned, unambiguous black person. So notice how when they think we're not looking, they're literally agreeing with our talking points. But then when we say it, we're creating a hierarchy and being colorist. This person says, as a mixed person, mixed women are extremely overrepresented when it comes to black representation in media. It's endlessly hurtful and disappointing. It's an insult to our intelligence when they cast a mixed race woman in a role where she has two black parents. Like, be effing for real. But I thought black people come in all shades and phenotypes, and Beyonce looks like every black person in Houston, so apparently the average black person has blonde hair and hazel eyes. So what happened to that talking point? If blackness truly does come in all phenotypes, then actually it is believable that a mixed race woman could have two parents that look darker than her. So do you see how they constantly change their talking points? By the way, this is a mixed race savior. But she says, I want to see more dark-skinned black women represented in positive roles. Black women have my support and my heart. So what is a positive role? They say they want corrective promotion. They want positive roles. What is an example of a positive role? Name names. Is it being a Disney princess? Okay, so Disney, you do know that Walt Disney was an alleged supporter of the Nazis, right? So these women are fighting to be represented on Disney Channel. They're fighting to be represented by people who literally supported racists. But okay, this person says they are overrepresented. First of all, what qualifies as overrepresentation? So now they're saying we need to have a limit, okay? We got to have a quota. Only one light-skinned person per movie. You need to make the unambiguous girl the main character and then, just put the mixed girls on the side or make them be extras. It's like they're using these phrases, overrepresentation. They're being overrepresented. Who gets to decide how much representation MLS women get to have? Not random commenters on TikTok. This person says light skins and biracials are a very minor and minuscule percentage of the black community, and even less so for the entirety of the globe. There's no reason they should be making up the majority of POC representation. Who are you comparing these light skinned and biracial people to? Oh, also, she did include biracials in the black community. So do you see what I mean? They throw mixed people in and out of blackness. Just a couple comments ago, you had somebody saying, oh, well, it's different. You're not black. And now you got this person saying that biracials are a minuscule percentage of the black community. Also, MLS people taking up the majority of POC representation is laughable. Because you're telling me that there are more light-skinned people than the entire Asian community's media. So all the K-pop, all the K-beauty, all the J-beauty, all the different types of Asian music. Oh no, there are more light-skins than all of those artists. It's like, do you hear yourself? This person is a monoculturally black person that's saying that. Because nobody multicultural thinks that light skins and biracials are overtaking POC representation on a global level. Do you see how high of a pedestal they put exoticals on? We are the center of their world. This person says, literally, most people are brown and dark skinned. Oh, but I thought that light brown people are just regular. So what do you mean? What do you mean most black people are brown and dark skinned? So are you admitting what I say on this channel all the time, which is that the majority of the black community is not light-skinned? This person says, right, anytime I see another funny-faced light-skin in movies or TV, I get mad, like, go away. This person says they also want dark-skinned women to be twice as talented for half the amount of recognition. So here we go, we're in a one-sided talent competition with dark-skinned women. This person says, I love Zendaya down for being aware and honest about this in the entertainment industry and uses her privilege to prop up darker-skinned actors and actresses. This person says, I've always heard people say this, but if you don't mind me asking, who are the darker skinned actresses she has given those opportunities to? Again, if you don't mind me asking. This person says she refused to do Casey Undercover unless the family was dark skinned. She also refuses roles that she feels would be better if a dark skinned woman played them. This person says if it truly mattered that much to her, then she wouldn't have taken the role as KC. So apparently Zendaya, she was not supposed to take that role. She's not supposed to have money. She should have just been poor. This person says dark-skinned men are not and never have been lacking representation. How many more times are we gonna have what is meant to be a fully black family, but the women are always played by light-skinned or biracial actresses? Just like all of the women and girls, minus Judy in KC Undercover. This person says, thank you. Like, she is a mixed woman, fought to have a black family and put herself in that black family when she's mixed. It doesn't make sense. She could have played their cousin or half-sibling or something. Okay, so if you're mixed race, you can't be the main character. You have to play the cousin. You have to play the half-sibling. You got to be the biracial stepchild. So they want you to feel like a biracial stepchild because that's how a lot of them feel. She's projecting. She feels like the dark-skinned black stepchild of Hollywood. And so now she's saying, Zendaya, she should have played the half-sibling or somebody just off to the side with no storyline. This person says, but why would she play the daughter of two black people? That's literally the issue, that mixed women are being used as representation for black, especially dark-skinned black women. She could have played a cousin or half-sibling if she was so passionate. She would have just stayed behind the scenes instead of centering herself in a black family and making the young black girl a robot. So now you can't be an actress if you're biracial. You need to stay behind the scenes because otherwise you're being overshadowing. You're overshadowing dark-skinned black people. And by the way, on that show, Casey Undercover, did they say on the show, hey, we're a dark-skinned black family? Like, did they say that? Because last time I checked, Disney Channel, they don't really emphasize race. They don't make race the focal point of the show, like how they do in black media. This is how I know that this person commenting, she's monoculturally black. She's used to watching black struggle media where the entire movie revolves around how everybody's black, and in the movie they talk about their blackness and how hard it is being black, and then they go through all these stereotypical black things. Disney is not like that. Like, if you look at all the different Disney shows, look at like Hannah Montana, look at the show that Selena Gomez was on, they didn't make the entire storyline revolving around those people's ethnicity. So the fact that they're implying that Zendaya can't be on the show because, she doesn't fit the same racial background as her castmates, Disney doesn't really care about that. Since when is Disney, remember, Walt Disney was allegedly a supporter of Nazis. Since when does a Nazi channel, Disney Channel, since when are they required to represent dark-skinned blackness? Do you see what I'm talking about? They're begging a channel where the creator of it had a history of supporting Nazis. They're begging to be a part of the legacy of a Nazi follower. This person says, are we going to skip over the whole beat up at the airport part? Yeah, because she's not telling the whole truth. That's why she skipped over it. She didn't want to have to explain that she didn't actually get beat up. I'd no longer believe women who just come on and accuse people of being racist, colorist, texturist, and featurist. So that's why she skipped over it. She's not going to tell you guys the story. She just wants to sensationalize it so that she gets clicks. That's the only way that a lot of these women can get attention on social media is by saying something outlandish or accusing people of being colorist, texturist, and featurist. That's the main way they go viral. And then this person says, sometimes people don't want to recount traumatic events. So then why talk about it at all? Why did she mention it? If she truly didn't want to recount being beat up at the airport, she shouldn't have just casually mentioned it in the TikTok because, yeah, of course people are going to ask about that. So that's how I know that's a lie. Oh, well, she just didn't want to recount a traumatic event. A person who truly doesn't want to talk about their traumas, they don't talk about them at all. This person says, thank you. People are so used to seeing traumatic things online that they're desensitized and lack empathy. I don't want to relay the ins and outs of a trauma that is very fresh and still very triggering to me. Then don't mention it on TikTok at all. This person says, I completely understand. We are not entitled to your pain. I hope you're taking your time healing from that event. Okay, so we're not entitled to dark-skinned, unambiguous women's pain like the one in the TikTok. Okay, so then we don't want to hear it at all then. But then, of course, people are going to say, oh, well, you're not showing empathy. So on the one hand, they get mad because they say no one's showing empathy for them. But then when we say, hey, can you talk more about this? Can you talk more about being beat up in the airport? Oh, well, I don't want to recount the traumatic event. This person says, you shouldn't share if you don't want to. As a dark-skinned black woman in CH, what is that, Chicago? I don't know what that is. She says, are you telling me that I am at risk of violence at my local airport? This is making me scared. I agree. There's no point in them saying it because all they're doing is fear-mongering other dark-skinned black women. They're making it sound like being dark is dangerous. You know that phrase, you're safe brown. Okay, so because you're not as dark as Keisha, you're safe. Okay, so you're implying that Keisha is going to get her ass beat. You're implying that her skin is literally going to make her suffer. You're implying that her skin is like a curse, basically. So that's why you got a young dark-skinned girl in the comments. Oh, are you telling me that I'm at risk of violence at my local airport? This is making me scared. So now you got a whole bunch of black women that are dark-skinned that are going to be scared to travel. And by the way, we see that all the time. Because they'll make these TikToks, oh, don't go to Italy because they're racist. Oh, don't go to Brazil because they're racist. Don't go to the US because they're racist. Don't go to Hollywood because they're racist. Don't join the music industry because they're racist. Don't date black men because they're colorist. Don't date Indian men because they're also colorist. Don't date Hispanic men because they're anti-black. They're going to say you have to improve the race by being with someone white. Don't go to the hair salon because they're going to damage your 4C hair. Don't go to the makeup counter because they don't have your shade. This person says, I've noticed that in the media, these specific light-skinned women usually hold Eurocentric features too. Okay, here they go with that phrase, Eurocentric features, but then they never describe what those Eurocentric features are. This person says, how many projections of black features that many dark-skinned women hold, not all but a lot, do you see? Not many at all for sure. Not to mention, Any made the song Pang Black Girls talking about experiences as a dark-skinned woman and highlighting beautiful dark-skinned features. What's a dark-skinned feature? So what's a Eurocentric feature, and then what is a dark-skinned feature? I would love for the dark-skinned black community to explain that, because they're constantly moving the goalpost when it comes to featureism. But then she says, then Georgia Smith featured on the song, and it blew up. The space for dark-skinned women representation was instantly eradicated. So because Georgia Smith sang a song, she was eradicating the space for dark-skinned women. So the only way to give them a space is to literally give up all of our opportunities. That's what they want. That's what women with inferiority complexes want. They don't want women like Zendaya to be actresses. They don't want women like Georgia Smith to make music. So now you're not even allowed to make music with a dark-skinned woman. So Georgia Smith, you messed up. You shouldn't have made a song with a dark-skinned woman. This person says, I can never speak for dark-skinned women, but it's so unsettling how little the media representation is. The voice is there, but all you can hear is the sound of others who believe they can dictate what black spaces should look like. Respectfully, dark skins are the blueprint, period. So if dark skins are the blueprint, why aren't they creating their own media? Why aren't they creating their own record labels and stuff to help other dark-skinned women, seeing as they're the blueprint? Why did 400,000 dark-skinned women unfollow Fanita, but 400,000 dark-skinned women didn't unfollow Ekane? Since they're the blueprint. Do you see what I mean about bad social climbing tactics? They don't know how to stay on code. This person says, you're so right. Getting brutalized for things my light-skinned counterparts get away with is always so ugh. So she's using a very aggressive word, brutalized. What does that even mean? You get brutalized. Are you suffering from police brutality or like what? What is it that light-skinned people get away with that you don't, by the way? Because they're telling us exoticals that none of us have any privileges whatsoever. But here you have a woman saying that she doesn't have privileges that light-skinned women have because the light-skinned women can get away with certain things. Okay, so what are these ethereal, magical things that light-skinned women get away with that the dark-skinned, brutalized woman can't do? Do you see how she's referring to herself? Oh, I'm just a brutalized dark-skinned woman. I'm brutalized. My light-skinned counterparts get away with this. Ugh. This person says, and people be judging when I say that I feel more represented by Laura instead of Manon from Cat's Eye because I have nowhere near Manon's skin color. So this proves my talking point again that they identify based on their skin tone identity first. It goes, I'm a dark-skinned woman first, and then I'm a black woman. So she's doing that same rhetoric. I feel more represented by Laura because Laura's dark-skinned. I don't know who Laura is, but I'm assuming it's somebody who's darker than Manon. And then somebody's agreeing with her. They're saying, they drag me whenever I say this. She said, people have a problem with it because she is not racialized as black. However, it's okay to give equal importance to other communities we're in. And that isn't based on race, but phenotype. Like I said, once again, she's proving that a lot of women, they put their phenotype first. Their skin tone is the most important part of their identity. That's what they center their identity around. You know how I talk about decentering men? So these women have decentered their blackness. They decenter their blackness and they have replaced it by centering their skin tone, or maybe centering their womanhood as well. Like, you know, I'm a dark-skinned woman first, and then I'm black, and then I'm XYZ other identities. So it's very important to point that out, because that means if you are a light-skinned woman who's monoracially black, they don't view you as a part of their group, because their group is their skin tone group. If you're not the same skin tone and same gender as her, you're not a part of her group. That's why you don't have that sisterhood with her. This woman is exposing it right here. This is another psychological jackpot. So she said that it's okay to give equal importance to other communities we're in that isn't based on race, but on phenotype and shared experiences. Trauma bonding. If you can't trauma bond with her based on her dark skin experience, you can't relate to her. She said it right here in this sentence. She said shared experiences such as being monoracial, experiencing colorism at a higher rate. Those are her traumas. So being monoracial, apparently that's a trauma for her, being monoracially black, and then experiencing colorism. So if you can't relate to her traumas, you're not a part of her group. Then she says, even though I'm racialized as black, I am also part of the darker skin community. So once again, she's separating the communities. She's saying, no, there's a dark skin community that's not based on race at all. You could be from anywhere in the world and just be dark skinned. And that's my community that I belong to first, before my blackness. So that's why she prioritizes Laura. She says Laura is in that camp as well. And that community matters too, not just the black one. That's why you have women abandoning the black community. They don't care about the black community. They care about the dark skin community. That's why you don't see them defending or trying to represent light-skinned black women. Notice how light-skinned women are supposed to give up their opportunities to represent dark-skinned black women, but I don't see any dark-skinned black women doing the same. This person says, this reminds me of the cat's eye paper bag debate. When we say that their label consciously made a global girl group without a dark or brown-skinned black girl, and people answer that Manon is enough, when it's not the same at all. Again, this is a K-pop group, right? Isn't that a K-pop group? Cat's Eye? So why are they trying to be represented by a K-pop group? The last time I checked, the people who are in charge of the K-pop labels, they get to decide who's in the group. This person says, or when they bring up Laura as the dark-skin representation. And then once again, here goes another girl. As a black girl, I relate more to Laura than Manon. You know why? Because she centers her skin tone identity first, not her racial identity. Her dark skin is more important to her than her blackness. And by the way, there is no wrong way to shape your own identity, but that explains why, even if you're black, you don't feel a camaraderie with women who are dark skinned. It's because they don't care about your blackness. They care about the fact that you benefit from the same ism they suffer from. That's why you're their enemy. So even though you share the same racial background, you don't share the same skin tone background. The way that they relate to the world is based on their color. And that's it. It's not based on their blackness. This girl says, I never said she was the best representation for dark-skinned black women. I'm saying she's better representation for black women than biracial women are. So a dark-skinned Indian woman is a better representation for blackness than an actual half-black woman. She just proved my point again. She says, dark-skinned women universally have similar experiences due to colonialism and white supremacy. So what are these similar experiences that all dark-skinned women have? You mean feeling rejected? So do you hear her inferiority complex coming out? She's saying that dark skin equals rejection. Dark skin equals being ostracized. Dark skin equals feeling invisible. So that's why she can relate more with someone like Laura, because she can trauma bond with Laura. She feels like Laura has probably suffered colorism that is more similar to her as a dark-skinned black woman versus Manon. So do you see how they prioritize colorism above racism? They're saying that, you know, my experiences with colorism are more important for me to talk about than just my experiences with racism. Because Manon, she can experience racism, but not colorism. Or she experiences colorism not in the same way. So this woman is literally admitting that she only supports women who she can trauma bond with the most. She says features play a role as well, but skin color is arguably the most prominent aspect of colorism. That's the only part of colorism, ma'am. What do you mean features play a role? I mean, they play a role, but that's why it's called colorism, and then featureism is its own thing. She said she has experienced colorism, so she has better representation in terms of experience. I'm sure that's what she meant. So you got several people agree that experiencing colorism is what's most important to them. If you want to be their representation, you need to be someone who experiences colorism. And so that's why they don't like Manon from Cat's Eye, because, you know, she doesn't represent a woman who experienced colorism, even though there are dark-skinned women who exist who probably they're not that familiar with colorism, or they just don't care about it, or it's a very minor part of their life. They don't center their identity around it. So they're ignoring those dark-skinned women. And they're assuming that if you're dark, you must have the same traumas as them. This person says, the day someone posted Tyla and Manon as African girl representation at the VMAs, I knew I had to drop my phone, man. This person says, and Arya Starr is literally there. Why couldn't they post her? This person says, we don't represent dark-skinned women at all. We have the responsibility to use our privilege to make spaces safer for darker-skinned women. So you don't represent them, and you're not a part of their community, yet you are required to build their community? That would be like if somebody told dark-skinned black women, oh, you need to build the Hispanic women's community. You need to build the Asian women's community. Do you hear how mentally ill that sounds? So now, if you're light-skinned, now you got to be a mule or a mammy or a stepping stool for a community that they just admitted you're not a part of. This person says, there is so much colorism and lookism adjacent with desirability politics. Okay, she's doing this pseudo-intellectual thing where she's trying to use all these fancy words. Lookism just means who's ugly and who's not. Desirability politics, it means who's ugly and who's not. Don't try to put the word politics in there to make people think it's something else. No, who's ugly and who's not. Who gets the dick and who doesn't. That's why I said this is not an actual conversation about social justice. It's all about social status. Who's considered pretty and who's not. This person says, light-skinned mediocrity is hailed as representation, which is causing erasure. I do think we should work together, but for that to happen, we need to acknowledge that, especially Eurocentric light-skinned women. They are blocking up industries as representation. So if you're a Eurocentric looking light-skinned woman, you are literally blocking entire industries. Do you see how the pedestal is in the sky? So you are able to block a global media industry by simply being a Eurocentric light-skinned person. So because of your DNA, you have the power to block an entire industry. You cancel out all the opportunities for millions of darker skinned women just by being light-skinned. But what do you ladies think? Let me know in the comment section, and I'll talk to you next time. Stay pretty, ladies.